Merry meet, this is High Priest Oakenslaw from the Coven of the Open Mind, and you're watching Sabbats 101. Hail and welcome. As October turns to November, thousands of us, witches, Wiccans, druids, and various other pagans across the entire globe are observing this sacred time of Samhain. Samhain is the festival of the dead, and it means summer's end. Samhain is a time of celebration of the end of the harvest and the start of the coldest half of the year. For many practitioners, myself included, Samhain is also considered the beginning of the spiritual new year. So, Samhain is considered the witches' new year by many. It originated in Europe as a Celtic fire festival. The timing of the contemporary Samhain celebration varies according to where you are located in the world, but normally it occurs somewhere between October 30th to November 2nd. Many of us celebrate Samhain over the course of several days and nights, and these extended observations usually include a series of solo rites or rituals, as well as different ceremonies, feasts and gatherings with family and friends, and just the spiritual community in general. Fasting is also a big role in Samhain, since it's the Day of the Dead and we're honoring the dead. In the Northern Hemisphere, many pagans celebrate Samhain from sundown on October 31st through November 1st. Others hold Samhain celebrations on the nearest weekend or on the full or new moon closest to this time. And yet still some other pagans observe Samhain a bit later or near November 6th to coincide more closely with the astronomical midpoint between the fall equinox and the winter solstice. If you don't want to celebrate Samhain on October 31st and hold it a few days later because you want to celebrate it on the new moon that more coincides with your personal practice, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Many pagans in the southern hemisphere actually celebrate Samhain in the middle of their autumn, which actually happens to be in late April and early May, rather than the traditional European time of the holiday, which was in October. So it just also depends on where you live in the world. There's a lot of other names for Samhain. Some of these include obviously Halloween, All Hallows Eve, some call it a Shadow Fest or the Third Harvest, Harvest Home, Day of the Dead, November's Eve, Ancestors Night. So there's a ton of different names. There was actually a medieval book of tales called the Yellow Book of Wiccan that reported that common folk used to call Samhain the Feast of Mongfiend, Witch Queen, who married a king of Tara in Old Ireland. With the growth and spread of Christianity as the dominant religion throughout Europe, Samhain took on Christian names and guises. Some of these included like All Saints' Days or All Hallows' Eve. Also, All Souls' Day on November 2nd, which was a remembrance of all souls of the dead. With the coming of Christian Spaniards to Mexico, the indigenous customs of honoring the dead at the time of the year mixed with Roman Catholicism gave birth to what is now known as the Day of the Dead. So Halloween, short for All Hallows Eve, is celebrated on around October 31st, obviously. Although occurring at the same time of year and having roots in end-of-harvest celebrations of ancient past, Halloween and Samhain are not actually the same, but two separate holidays that differ considerably in focus and practice. In contemporary America and elsewhere, Halloween is a secular folk holiday. Like Thanksgiving, it's widely and publicly celebrated in homes, schools, everywhere, pretty much. Halloween has evolved to be both a family-oriented children's holiday as well as an occasion for those of all ages to, celebrate, to creatively express themselves and engage and play in this realm of make-believe and fantasy through costumes, trick-or-treating, storytelling. So in contrast, Samhain and its related Christian holiday counterparts continue to be religious in focus and spiritually observed by the adherents. Although observances may include merrymaking, the honoring of the dead that is central to Samhain is a really serious religious practice rather than a lighthearted make-believe reenactment like you see with the casual costume parties and trick-or-treating. Today's pagan Samhain rites, while somber, are benevolent, and although centered on death, do not involve human or animal sacrifices. I just want to put that out there right now, that Wiccans especially, and most pagans, are not actually sacrificing humans or live animals. For Samhain especially, most rituals are held in private. Samhain's long association with death and the dead reflects nature's rhythms. In many places, Samhain coincides with the end of the growing season, October. Vegetation starts to die, and therefore, literally, death starts to become all around you. Death is in the air, so to speak. This contributes to the ancient notion that at Samhain, the veil between our world of the living and the realm of the dead is at its thinnest. This facilitates contact and communication with spirits. There can be no life magic done during this time of year. That only death magic can be done. Necromancy, which, by the way, I just want to talk about real quick. Necromancy is not what Hollywood describes it as. It's not raising animals and people from the dead or anything crazy like that. Necromancy is literally just any form of death magic or using death energy. So if you are doing divination with a pendulum and you're using death energy instead of life energy, then you're doing necromancy. So congratulations. For those who have lost loved ones in the past year, Samhain rituals can be an opportunity to bring closure to grieving and to further adjust to their being in the other world by spiritually communing with them. This is the time that it's really, really easy to contact spirits. So now I actually want to talk about a few simple ways that you can celebrate and observe Samhain. You could do a Samhain nature walk. So just go take a walk in a natural area around your home, observe and contemplate the colors, the sounds, the smells, all of your sensations. Samhain is one of the most potent nights of the year to practice magic. As a cross-quarter day, it is a supernatural time, a time outside of time, the night that is not a night. It's a powerful time for flux and change. Because you're doing it on Samhain, it'll make the effects heightened and more potent, so to speak. Any type of candle magic is really good, and astral projection, past life work, mirror spells, protection spells, inner work, clearing obstacles inside of your own personal life, inspiration spells, manifesting, transformation, and creative visualization. Like Maybone and many of the harvest holidays, bonfires are another very big part of Samhain. Some other things that you can do on the day of Samhain is visit graveyards and make pilgrimages to sacred spaces. You can seek out abandoned homes or ghost hunt. Disclaimer, so I don't get in trouble. Don't trespass, don't do anything illegal. Other things that you can do, reflect on yourself on what needs to be transformed within you. As I said, with the transformation and manifestation spells are really potent during this night. Remember and honor your departed loved ones, setting things that remind you of them on your altar. Set up mementos and just other objects that either they might have owned when they were alive, things that are meaningful to them, or things that are meaningful to you that remember them of you. You can set them up on an altar or place like a shrine outside. You can use mugwort tea or mullein or other death-related herbs. Another good one is wormwood, which I think is kind of like a less potent version of mugwort. Divination work is very popular during this time of year because it is very potent. You can use a Ouija board if you're comfortable with that. I know a lot of people are nervous when using Ouija boards, mostly because of just the Hollywood depiction of it. And sure, you could bring in some negative things that you don't want to bring in. So every year, my wife and I usually make a homemade Ouija board. We have people over for Samhain, and we make a homemade Ouija board. And one of us will usually either shield the group or cast circle or something before we use the Ouija board. So as long as you do that, as long as you're comfortable and know how to cast circle or shield yourself, probably use a Ouija board, no problem. Especially if you're afraid of using it, then definitely don't use it. Some things that you can eat during Samhain. Pomegranates is a really, really big fruit and staple of Samhain. It represents all of the many souls of the dead, the seeds as one fruit. Soups, particularly soulful ones like chicken soup or broccoli cream soup, whole and hearty ones, you know. Braised meats, Roast things which cook all day in crock pots. Cooked herbs and vegetables, squashes and squash dishes. Anything and everything pumpkin. Pumpkin pie, pumpkin muffins, pumpkin soup, pumpkin rolls, pumpkin frittata. That's a My Little Pony reference. Apples and nut pies, savory foods with rosemary and sage and thyme, like I was going into those really hearty foods. If you drink, mead, dark red wines and dry wines, hard ciders, apple ciders. Some other associations with Samhain are acorns, pine cones. A lot of people like to gather dead leaves they find on the ground and spread them across their altar. Mortars and pestles, cauldrons, brooms, and other woven purifying tools. Books, journals, things which represent introspection and learning. Lanterns, candles, cinnamon, ginger, allspice, and of course, pumpkin. Some other associations with Samhain is the black cat, the jack-o'-lantern, bat, the ghost, scarecrow, and the waning moon. Some of the goddesses during this time of year that you could celebrate and commune with is the crone, all crone goddesses, Caerdwyn, Hecate, Lilith, the Morgan, Isis, Pomona, Brigid's crone aspect, who is reborn during this night. Some of the gods that you could observe during this time is Osiris, the horn god, Herni, the hunter, Cernunnos, Anubis, Odin, Braun, any death gods really, dying and rising gods. Some incense that you could use during this night are copal, sandalwood, mastic resin, benzoin, sweetgrass, wormwood to get the sight, see the spirits of the returning dead. Same with mugwort, as I previously mentioned before. Some colors that you could use when you're doing candle magic this time of year is black, orange, any autumn colors like yellow, gold, browns. You could also do one black candle to represent the Lord of the Old Year and one white candle to represent the Lady and the New Year. Some tools that you could use as well during this time of year is the broom to sweep out the old year and any negativity it had, and the cauldron also, as I said before, the cauldron which represents transformation. Some of the stones and crystals you can use during this time of year is obsidian, carnelian, onyx, smoky quartz, jet, and bloodstone. Some other altar ideas that you could do, any flowers that you see are actively flowering this time of year are fall flowers. So you can harvest any of those and use those to decorate your altar with. You can use ears of corn or sprays of grain. We actually have oat grass growing in our yard, and so we've used some of that as an altar decoration in the past. You can make corn dollies and use those to either decorate your altar with or to use in ritual, or both. Images of past ancestors, as I said before, and just use whatever's in season wherever you live and just do what looks and feels right to you. There's no right or wrong way really when it comes to decorating your altar. If it looks good and it feels right to you and it makes sense to you, then go for it. Samhain's the last holiday of the year. It marks the time of decay and sadness, of loss and grief, but of joy and renewal and transformation. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any questions, as always, feel free to email us at covenantoftheopenmind@gmail.com or comment down below. Feel free to join our Discord server or visit our website at www.openmindedpath.com. And from everybody here at the Covenant of the Open Mind, hail and farewell.